My name's Dan Grec, I'm with The Road Chose Me, and I just drove this Jeep all the way around Africa. I'm here at the Virginia Rooftop Tent Rally. Welcome to Waypoint Overland TV. So I've just come back from Africa where I drove this JK Wrangler 54,000 miles around the entire continent. The expedition took 999 days, which is almost 3 years, and I went through 35 different countries in Africa. So as you can imagine, I saw all kinds of beautiful things, friendly people, wild places, and of course a ton of elephants, giraffes, lions, all of the animals that you might imagine that you can see across Africa. And so today I wanted to show you the Jeep and talk a little bit more about the expedition. So we'll start over here on the hood. I've got a map of where I went in Africa. So I started in Morocco in the northwest of Africa, and I moved all the way down the coastline to South Africa. And so through the middle here, I drove through the Congos, Angola, Nigeria, Mali, all of the countries you've heard of as being maybe not the greatest places on earth to visit, but it turned out everyone was really, really friendly and they were happy to have me visit their countries. So then once I reached South Africa at the south of the continent, I did a round of maintenance on the Jeep, I resupplied all of my equipment and food and all of the supplies I needed, and then I moved all the way up the east coast of Africa. And so then I went through all the famous countries like Uganda and Kenya and Tanzania, and then earlier this year I was in Sudan and Egypt to finish the expedition, and then I shipped the Jeep back here to North America at the start of 2019. So the Jeep itself is a 2011 Rubicon Unlimited, and I chose this Jeep on purpose because it's a Rubicon. It has factory diff lockers, which I did use almost every day in West Africa. I did upfit it quite a lot. You can see here in the front, I've got an AEV front bumper, which is great for radiator protection. I've got a worn winch, which I did use quite a few times, stuck in the mud in Kenya, stuck in the Congos, and actually I rolled the Jeep in Uganda on its side, and if I didn't have the winch, I don't know if I ever would have got the Jeep back up on its wheels. As well as that, you can see I'm running a snorkel, and not only was this good for deep river crossings, which are unexpected, but also for dust prevention as well. It has a pre-filter, and so it kept a lot of dust out of the engine intake, which I'm sure helped with the reliability of the whole Jeep, which in fact never broke down once on the whole trip. For wheels and tyres, I'm running Mopar winter wheels, and these are made out of steel, and I chose those because they won't crack and they'll be really reliable no matter where I am on the planet. And then the tyres, these are Yokohama Geolander XATs. These are Yokohama's new tough all-terrains, and they've been doing great so far. I'm really impressed with them. So when I dreamed of this trip, I knew I didn't want to just sleep in the dirt and eat ramen noodles. I wanted to be comfortable the whole time. And so that's why I chose this integrated roof camper system. This is called a J30. It's made by Ursa Minor. And as you can see, I have an upstairs area in my Jeep. I sleep up there, and it allows me to escape the pouring rain and the mosquitoes when the weather's really bad. As well as that, I've added an awning here on the back of the Jeep, so this gives me protection from the sun and the rain, and that's primarily used when I'm here in my kitchen area. So I like to cook and eat good food, and so here I've got everything I need, and combined with my Dometic fridge, it means I can eat really well while I'm on the road, and in fact I did eat well for the 3 years. So for the interior of the Jeep, I needed to store all of my things, but I had to be really conscious of how heavy everything would turn out to be. So I actually made these cabinets myself. They're built using aluminum framing, which is a really cheap way to go. You can buy this from Home Depot or Lowe's, and then corner connectors mean that you'll always get right-angled corners, and then I just use some cheap plywood to frame the boxes. So that's actually what makes up my storage system. It was cheap and it worked really well. Back here I've also got my fridge, which I use every single day and allows me to eat well. And I also have a drinking water and filtration system in my Jeep. Underneath, I've mounted a 13-gallon tank, and then there's a filtration setup, a UV lamp, and a water pump. And that actually means I have running drinking water at all times, which, as you might imagine, was really important in Africa. So here on the rear tyre carrier, of course I've got my spare tyre. I've also got a 10-gallon auxiliary gas tank, which I did use a lot while in remote areas of Africa. I have a full-size shovel, which came in handy to dig out the Congo mud. I also am carrying a set of max tracks, which I did use extensively, and I have a high lift jack over there next to the max tracks. So all of this is supported on the weight with an AEV tyre carrier, which again has been brilliant on the whole trip. It never rattled or had any problems. So that allowed me to carry all of this extra equipment on the back of the Jeep. A couple of the small features on my Jeep maybe that people don't think so much about. In the hood here, I've added hood vents. The Jeep wasn't actually overheating, but it was running really, really hot. And I think that kind of prevention, again, helps with longevity of the engine. Something else I've added here is a lock on the hood. Because the Wrangler doesn't have a lock from the factory, it would be easy for someone to open the hood. And so I added this is from a company called Bolt, and it's really cool because it uses the factory ignition key. And so then with that, I know that nobody can steal anything under the hood, even when I'm not around to keep an eye on it. And so under the hood, you'll see the Wrangler is quite stock. This is a 3.8 litre V6. It does not have a supercharger or any modifications like that. And for that reason, it's been really reliable for the whole trip, and I've never had a breakdown, ever. Another system here under the hood is the dual battery setup. So there are actually two Optima yellow top batteries in that tray, and they're isolated by this big solenoid. And so that means when the engine's off, the batteries are currently disconnected. One is running the fridge, and one will just wait until I want to start the engine. That way I can't flatten my starting battery. When the engine runs, this solenoid bridges the batteries together, and then the alternator can charge both of them at the same time. As well as that, I have Renogy solar panels mounted to the roof of my camper. So I have 200 watts of solar, and they are always charging that second battery with the help of a charge controller. So it was a really great way while I was on my trip. I could leave the Jeep parked for weeks at a time, and I just knew I always had the power to run my fridge, to charge my laptop and my cameras and all of my equipment. So electrically, that's how my Jeep functions. So one of the additions I made to the engine is this mechanical cooling fan that's mounted to the front of the water pump. Not many people know when this vehicle was sold in the Middle East, it had this extra cooling fan to deal with the severe temperatures. So the fan and the fan clutch, they're actually a Mopar part, and they directly bolt onto this engine to add additional cooling. It's a cheap way to make sure that you always have airflow. And so this fan is actually an addition to the electrical fan. So at times they're both running for maximum cooling and maximum airflow. And again, I had no problems even in the scorching temperatures in the Sahara Desert because I added this additional fan and the cooling vents in the hood. Under the hood, I've also mounted an ARB air compressor. And so this just allows me to be self-sufficient in terms of airing down and airing up my tyres, and also to air up a tyre if I have a failure or if I have a flat. And I did actually use it very, very frequently in Africa, and I had to repair 3 flat tyres on the journey, and the compressor was a must to be able to air up those flat tyres. I mounted the air compressor under the hood because it fits in this location, and that means I'm not using up valuable space in the interior of the vehicle. It's here under the hood, and I just don't need to worry about it. So the front of the Jeep is quite stock in terms of seats and steering position and all of that. What I did add, however, is a lot of lockable storage because I needed to keep my things safe around Africa. So my passport, my money, my credit cards, my cameras, all of those things, I've added steel lock boxes. These are all made by Tuffy Security, and they're a direct bolt-in for the Jeep Wrangler and other vehicles as well. So here I've got a glove box. This is made out of steel, and I believe there's videos online of people hitting these with sledgehammers and pry bars, and they don't break into them. They're that tough. Underneath both front seats, I have lockable security drawers. Again, they're made out of steel, and they're bolted right through the floor. So actually my passport is in there right now. It's been in there for 4 years. And then in the center there, I have a center console that is also a steel lockbox bolted through the floor. and that's where my camera equipment lives. So it's quick for me to get to it, but I know that when I lock it, my cameras are secure and they can't easily be stolen. So small things like that make the difference when you're thinking of a vehicle that you want to take long-term internationally. You need to make sure your things are safe. It gives you that peace of mind that, you know, all of your stuff won't get stolen and you'll be stuck without access to money or your passport. If you'd like to learn more, I've published a couple of books about my adventures. The first one is called The Road Chose Me Volume 1, and that's about my trip I took from Alaska to Argentina. Back then, I didn't know anything about overlanding. I just wanted to go and have adventures. I had a ground tent, I had a simple little Jeep, and in the end I drove 40,000 miles over 2 years. And so I wrote a book to help other people do the same and to inspire and encourage, you know, people to get out there and live their dreams. As well as that, I've just published a photography book from Africa. And so this contains all of the wild places I got to, all of the beautiful things I saw, and all the wild places I visited. And that book is called 999 Days Around Africa. Both of those books are available on Amazon now. If you search for The Road Chose Me, you'll find them on Amazon. So as well as the books I've written, I also have a presence online. On my website, theroadchoseme.com, you can read stories and see photos from the whole adventure, and not only the Africa adventure, you can go back all the way through the Pan American adventure as well, and then the book is the companion that goes into more detail and helps you have your own adventure. Also online, I have a YouTube channel, The Road Chose Me, and I have videos from every country in Africa. Bribery in Nigeria, getting stuck in the mud in the Congo, getting close to elephants in Zambia. All of these adventures, they're all on film if you'd like to follow along. The Road Chose Me. And then Instagram as well, all of my photography from Africa. You can see all of the wild places I got to, all of the friendly people I met, and all the wildlife that I encountered along the way. And again, that's a companion to the 999 Days book that is the published version of the best of those photographs. So all across social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and the .com is all The Road Chose Me.